at least one of the companies out there has a training program to train Native Hawaiians to kind of do this type of work. So it's very specialized, but it is making a difference, I think. And I think for Native Hawaiians, there is the connection. And, that's why I think there are folks out there that want to learn how to do this and actually make a difference.
Welcome back to Hawaii Real, everybody. I have with me the president of the Native Hawaiian Chamber of Commerce, Shannon Edie. Shannon, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, and I'm not supposed to say that you're a Chargers fan.
All right, I'm an avid Chargers fan.
Yay! Even with her move to LA, so she's kind of in between. She doesn't know if she wants to stay with them or not, but it's the NFL. Oh, are the Chargers kneeling for the national anthem though? I think that would be a thing. Are they playing this Sunday?
That's a good question.
Are they playing today?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay, well, we'll see when the episode releases. It's like, what were you guys doing on the field?
Interesting question.
Yeah. Has nothing to do with the Native Hawaiian Chamber of Commerce, but so I was asking off camera, what are your hobbies? And you're like, I don't really have any hobbies. Her main hobby is the Native Hawaiian Chamber of Commerce and running that show. So what drives you to want to do that as your hobby, as your passion?
Well, I think there's a number of reasons, but first is when my business partner and I started our small business. It was the first organization that we joined. And I think part of that was just to feel a sense of belonging with folks that we had something in common with. I think that's, a very common thing that people search for. And so that was the first professional organization we joined. And we found a lot of value, particularly in the networking aspect and just meeting other Native Hawaiian businesses and getting the word out about our business. So in the early days of our business, they were very, very supportive of getting the word out about our company. So that's one thing. I feel like it's a valuable resource for businesses, Native Hawaiian businesses. The second thing is, I went away for college and law school, and I stayed away. And then when I was ready to come back, because of my profession, I was able to do that fairly easily. I did have to take a pay cut, but, I was willing to make that sacrifice. And I see a lot of people move away and not be able to come back because the cost of living is very high.
Cost of living here sucks.
Yes.
It's still going up even during the pandemic, right?
Exactly. And so one of my passions is to create a pathway for people to be able to come back when they want to. And if that is through owning a small business, starting a small business, then I think that's a great avenue for people to consider and something that not everyone does consider. So, I do think it's important for folks to have experiences away from Hawaii, but I also would like to see folks return here and not be so difficult to do. So, in any way that the chamber can assist or facilitate that process, that's kind of what I'm trying to do.
So it's basically connecting Native Hawaiian owned businesses with each other?
Yes, exactly.
And you were telling me off camera that there's no directory or anything for any of the Native Hawaiian businesses that are here in Hawaii, and you guys are trying to strive to build one?
Yes, so there have been efforts in the past to create a directory of Native Hawaiian owned businesses. And of course, a lot of this was back in the day when print was very big.
Oh, pre-internet? Yeah.
And so, one of the challenges with that was the maintenance and upkeep. And so our chamber has formed a hui with the other neighbor island Native Hawaiian chambers of commerce.
Oh, so every island has their own.
Kauai has one, Maui has one, and the youngest is Hawaii Island.
Okay.
And so we have formed a hui and we are working together on different initiatives. And the first initiative is this business directory.
And it's going to link all those different Chamber of Commerces together in that one directory. Like you're not going to have one single directory for each county, or you're going to have one big directory?
Well, I think each chamber maintains their own directory,
Okay.
but the overarching goal is for us to create a master directory
Right.
of not just our members, although the hope is that businesses will join, their respective chambers on their island. But I think we just want to make sure that all Native Hawaiian businesses are captured and that folks who want to support these businesses have access to a centralized kind of repository, if you will, where they can find that information.
That's cool. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to add that, we have had a number of meetings with different leaders in the community and have let them know about this effort. And many of them were very excited about this because, when they want to communicate directly with Native Hawaiian owned businesses, this will be a great way for them to just send out, kind of a mass communication. Whereas currently there isn't really a way to identify who all those businesses are.
That's impressive. I like that. I think one of the startups for, Hawaiian sovereignty and moving forward and being independent. Well, a lot of that has to do with doing it in a commercial format too, where we are linking together as Native Hawaiian businesses. Yay, me too. And, pulling our weight together and, having strings to be pulled with each other, so that all of us do succeed and that we are getting the tools and the help that we need when we don't know what the hell to do. Like we were talking about earlier off camera about writing business plans. Like I don't know how to write a business plan. Like that's not something that you learn in school or anything like that unless you go specifically for business, I guess. But you guys said that you're trying to build something that's going to help Native Hawaiian startups to build business plans and stuff like that.
Yes, exactly. So another initiative of our hui is to create a Native Hawaiian small business development center or something, along those lines. And so if you're not familiar with the SBDCs, there is one on every island, and on Oahu, it's run out of the Manoa Innovation Center, and they provide free services to businesses, including potential business owners, and advise on a wide variety of issues. And yes, one of the things that they can assist with is preparation of a business plan. And so one of our partners, the president of the Kauai Native Hawaiian Chamber of Commerce, John Ka'ohe told a story about when he first started his business and was looking to apply for a loan through OHA. He needed to provide a business plan. And so he sought the help of the Small Business Development Center on Kauai. And, that was just a one-man shop at the time. This was, 10 years ago probably. But it took him about a year to get a completed business plan. And by the time he got the business plan in its final format, a lot of the information was outdated. So that's just an example that, of a story that we like to tell about. There is such a huge need for these services. And, if we can provide that service for Native Hawaiian businesses, then, we definitely want to do that. And that ties into kind of our goal. I think, I was mentioning to you off camera that as part of, COVID, our chamber hasn't really been able to impact anything directly, but we have put out a lot of information and pointed people in the right direction in terms of where they can find the resources that they need. We're looking more long-term. And to the recovery effort, which obviously is going to be very critical, right?
Yeah.
And so the business directory and the small business development centers are part of that longer term recovery effort, if you will.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to touch on that too, with the numbers of businesses here in Hawaii that have closed down and shut their doors. Like, do you know, I guess, like a percentage or how many, or, maybe just an estimate of how many, maybe locally Native Hawaiian owned businesses have shut their doors for good?
Unfortunately, we don't have a good handle on that information. And part of it is because we don't or did not have a good handle of how many Native Hawaiian owned businesses there are out there. And a lot of them are mom and pops, and they're not on the internet, they're not on social media, and they haven't, widely publicized their closing. They just kind of shut down very quietly. So unfortunately, right now, we just don't have a really good handle on that information.
Where do you think this whole epidemic has taken us in terms of the economy here locally? Because tourism's big, right? And we're still shut down.
Tourism is big. I personally think it's going to be really difficult for us to recover from what's going on right now. And the longer that we stay shut down, that's just going to compound the problem. I am hopeful. I do think that there are opportunities for businesses. I think there's also an opportunity for the Hawaiian community to have a bigger say in what tourism looks like when we're able to reopen, and how we can do that in a sustainable manner. So it's rough right now, but I think there's a lot of opportunity for our community.
That's a very interesting outlook. What is tourism going to look like after the pandemic, and what kind of plans are in place? Like, what kind of changes are you guys thinking, or have you seen?
We haven't seen anything directly, but I know that there are a number of organizations that are actively involved in thinking this through, and are actively involved in kind of engaging with leaders in the tourism industry, political leaders, to have this conversation. Our chamber actually sits on a number of, these tables, if you will, that are having these conversations. So, we're very grateful to be included in those conversations. And I just hope that, these conversations are fruitful and continue, because I don't think there's any argument that the way that we were doing things before is not going to be sustainable in light of COVID.
Like having the millions of tourists come here every year, which was great for the money bringing in. But yeah, like you said, we don't know what it's going to be like. And yeah, I don't know how that's going to change with bringing massive amounts of tourists from countries all over the world here, like we were used to.
Exactly. And, if something like this should happen again, we would be in a similar situation if we just kind of reopened with no changes.
So is there a direction where we're taking away from the tourism industry and going and looking at other avenues of potential industry here locally to sustain us?
Well, I think another big industry is the military and defense, but I think folks have similar concerns about that. So, one industry that's emerging is IT and cyber, and that can be done remotely. So, there are a number of organizations that are working to focus on that industry in particular. But that includes a lot of training. There's a lot of technical skills involved. So that's something that we will need to work on now and kind of have a longer term outlook on.
Who do you think, what kind of businesses are going to make it, and what kind of businesses are just going to fail and kind of fade away? Because you also talked about pushing the IT too, right?
Right.
Where are we going forward with this?
Well, on the IT side, I think there are a lot of opportunities with the federal government. That's one of my kind of areas of expertise is federal contracting.
Okay.
And so what I see is that there are a lot of opportunities with cyber and just IT generally. I mean, the government's getting hacked all the time, right? Or they want to prevent getting hacked. And so there are a lot of opportunities. So a lot of the companies that I work with that have contracts like this have difficulty filling some of these positions just because there aren't as many qualified individuals, certainly here locally. Mm-hmm. But it is a very specialized area. So, I think it's definitely an emerging industry and one that our state should take very seriously moving forward.
So we should start training people to how to do IT tech support kind of stuff?
Absolutely. Coding, things like that. I don't know if you're familiar with Purple Maya.
Nope.
But they're an organization that, is working on developing the next generation of coders and IT professionals. So we need more support for organizations like that.
Because that'd be cool, because then we could have, instead of tech support being in India.
Right.
Yeah, it could be here, right? In Nanakuli.
Exactly.
Hey, bro, what's your problem? Did you try to turn them on? Okay, is your laptop plugged in? Okay.
I'll just plug it for 30 seconds.
I have the worst. Yeah. I mean, what would you rather listen to? Some local brada or some Indian guy? I don't know. But at least they'd be in the United States, right?
Yes, exactly.
I should have Augie T on here. Yeah. Hey, can you do a local boy tech support kind of guy?
But I think that's just part of the conversation that our leaders need to have generally is what are these industries and how can we support them?
Okay. So the state government, do they have federal contracts or with the federal government? So does the state have contracts with local Native Hawaiian businesses too? Or is there a way to get through that, or what's going on with that?
The state does have contracts with Native Hawaiian owned businesses, but they don't have any programs that are, specifically for them to do business directly with Native Hawaiian owned businesses. So it would just be incumbent upon a Native Hawaiian business to submit a proposal in response to a request for a proposal from the state government, and then be selected or awarded that contract.
So they're going to be bidding with the rest of the businesses out there and competing on equal terms with the rest of the businesses.
Correct, exactly. And so on the federal side, there are specific programs that allow the federal government to kind of bypass that competitive bidding process in order to award a contract directly to a qualified Native Hawaiian business. And that's called the 8A program. And
the number 8 and the letter A.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, it's called the 8A Business Development Program, and it is administered by the Small Business Administration, the SBA. And it's for all intents and purposes known as a minority program. It's very challenging to get into the program and meet all of their requirements, obviously because the benefits can be so great. But if you are able to get into the program, it can really dramatically improve a business in terms of revenues coming in and, longer term growth.
Because you're locked into a federal government contract.
Exactly. And there is a program specifically for Native Hawaiian owned businesses, but the model is a little bit challenging. So the business actually has to be majority owned by a nonprofit.
Oh.
Yeah. So the nonprofit is called the NHO, or Native Hawaiian Organization. And then it holds a majority interest in for-profit companies. And the for-profit companies are the ones that actually apply for 8A certification with the SBA.
Interesting. So that kind of makes it more difficult. What kind of Native Hawaiian owned businesses have federal contracts?
So there are a number of companies that, I work with personally, but also that, it's a very small community. And so everyone kind of knows each other. But many of the contracts are construction. That's obviously, very military construction here is big. So there's a lot of that. There are what's called base logistics contracts. So kind of running the operations overall for a base or an agency or even a specific building. And then again, there's IT contracts. So, and one other area is environmental remediation. So
What is that?
Yeah.
That sounds big. And it sounds good because you can put an environment in it.
Yeah. So, I'm sure you know that the federal government has utilized different sites in our state to do testing. And so these companies go out and look for what's called UXO or unexploded ordinances.
Oh, so you're talking about like Ko'olawe?
Exactly. Yes.
Do they still do testing at the Waianae Range?
Yes. And then on Waikoloa, there's
Okay.
a big contract to do remediation there. So that's kind of what environmental remediation in the federal contracting space kind of refers to.
But then, so do you have like Native Hawaiians going out there and finding these unexploded ordinances?
Sometimes yes.
It's like, well, that
but,
sounds kind of scary, cuz.
but sometimes no. I mean, a lot of the people that are certified and qualified to do this work often are not Native Hawaiians. But I know that, at least one of the companies out there has a training program to train Native Hawaiians to kind of do this type of work. So it's very specialized, but it is making a difference, I think. And I think for Native Hawaiians, I mean, there is the connection. And, that's why I think there are folks out there that want to learn how to do this and actually make a difference.
So what are the big barriers for Native Hawaiians in getting into business or getting, starting their own business or becoming an entrepreneur or becoming an inventor? And I only bring this up because I hold 3 patents, right? 3, maybe 4. But I was looking at statistics on patent holders by state, and per capita, Hawaii is the lowest by far. I think like Delaware has more than we do. And it's kind of crazy. And it's like, I think to myself, I was like, why? Like we have so much going on here.
Well, I think there are a number of barriers. One is that people just don't really think of themselves as business owners. I know me personally, I never thought I would become a business owner. That's not the path I wanted to take. I wanted to always work for someone and have the security of working for someone. Being a business owner is scary. You kind of never know if you're going to make payroll, if you're going to make rent, especially when starting out. We're going into year 6 of our business, and certainly in the first few years, it was very scary for us. So I think there's a big risk factor. And then, kind of along the lines of what you're talking about, getting the technical assistance, the legal assistance to help with the patent, copyright, trademark process is expensive. And I think, that kind of maybe discourages people from doing that. And then also, I think just maybe lack of awareness of that process, of what it could mean for them.
I guess trademarking stuff, like a name, it's not hard at all. It's not expensive at all, but you just have to have the right contacts to help you through that process and do it. And even the patenting process, I don't think it was very difficult. And I mean, if you got through high school, you can probably get through the patent process with the right help. But you need that right help, right?
You do.
So that's where you guys come in, the Native Hawaiian Chamber of Commerce.
We can certainly help with pointing people in the right direction to get that assistance, yes. But I think also there's just a lot of maybe smaller steps involved, just in terms of what business entity. There's sole proprietor, there's LLC, there's corporation, and I think that can be really overwhelming for people. And so I think with our small business development center that we hope to, create in the near future, that's something that we would definitely be able to help with.
So you Kamehameha graduate. I called you out. Why? Because I'm a Kamehameha graduate. All right. Along the lines of like teaching people like the differences between LLCs, sole proprietorship, corporations, and stuff like that. Is that kind of stuff, do you see that being taken care of in schools or not? And should they be? Should we be teaching kids in the high school level, and maybe even younger, how to start a business, how to, think outside the box and become successful on your own, not just graduating, going to college, working for someone else?
So I will say that it has been a while since
high school?
Yes.
Yeah. I'm not going to date anybody.
Yeah, I'm not going to say when, but...
Okay, but from your personal experience, from the time you went to high school, from when you were in high school, do you think high school prepared you for owning a business or running a business?
Well, I mean, one of the greatest memories that I have was Miss Martin's class. I don't know if you had Miss Martin, was the business class where, you select kind of what you're going to sell. And then, the goal is to obviously make a profit, right? I think our class selected Lihing gummy bears. I think that was the product. So, all those people who were selling chicken musubis, like things like that. Yep. I think that was all part of it. So that definitely stuck out in my mind. I also think I was in charge of that project, which is why it kind of stayed with me. But definitely I think gave a great introduction to what it would be like. That was, I think, an elective course though, so I don't think it was mandatory. And then in college, I majored in business. But, from my experience, I think unless you have like a practical application, it's hard to, actually kind of prepare someone for something. So I would like to see, maybe a different take in business classes in terms of more practical application.
Like what? For example?
Maybe building upon, that experience of starting a business. So I think just building upon that experience, maybe shadowing other business owners, like going to their business, kind of seeing what they do, hearing actual stories.
It's like an internship kind of?
An internship, yes. And, Kamehameha Schools actually is doing that through their Kapili Oihana internship program. So I think we're moving in the right direction of giving people more hands-on practical experience for sure. But as with anything, it's how you apply yourself. It's how, what you take away from the experience. And I think for me, because that wasn't the path that I saw myself going down, I didn't really retain, I'm just going to be honest, I didn't really retain a lot of that.
Yeah, no, I'm in the same boat. Like I remember being in high school and wanting to start a hockey business and then going all the way to college and failing at business, all my business classes, or actually it was economics. I got an F in that. I was like, how do you get an F in economics, right? Must be the teacher. But it was hard. And so I changed my major and became criminal justice because it was a lot easier and didn't have to do a whole lot of math. And then come full circle years later and actually started a hockey business without all of that schooling and education, and just had to kind of teach myself as I went along because I was really passionate about starting the business. Whereas when I was younger, I wasn't. It was just kind of a thing I kind of wanted to do. I think it took years for me to figure out that, no, this is a thing that you wanted to do all these years, so you might as well do it. And here I am. It's weird. But I think if we could push kids in high school to be like, maybe even younger, that you do have the opportunities to build a business and invent stuff and create stuff in a wide variety of industries, that there's nothing stopping you, especially in the day and age of high technology. There's nothing stopping you.
Yeah, I agree completely.
I'm excited for like the next generation of kids and what they're going to come up with. I think like kids with like the stay-at-home learning and doing everything on their iPads and tablets at home and laptops and stuff. It's like they're really preparing for the workforce.
Yes. Yeah.
Your kids doing stay-at-home?
They are not, because they're only 2.
Oh, well.
So they are actually in daycare, but my business partner has children at home that has to work with on their distance learning. So and my nieces and nephew are doing distance learning right now as well. So I'm familiar with the challenges.
Yeah. There's a whole like business aspect that's going to come of light out of all of that. Like the schooling is going to change big time, I think. So it has already changed. We're in a revolution of that, I think. Okay, so Native Hawaiian Chamber of Commerce, right? You guys have an awards gala that you guys have called
We do.
OO Awards.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this year is the 44th year of the OO Awards.
And you were telling me the whole historical background behind the OO.
So
It's like a big stick.
it's a big stick. And, I think the idea is that it was used in those days to kind of create like a foundation. And so the OO Awards Gala recognizes Native Hawaiian business leaders in our community and, are the foundation of our communities.
So what's the process this year with COVID? Because how's that
Yes.
going to look?
Yes, that is very interesting. So the awards gala usually takes place in May. And so, of course, we were not able to have an in-person event. And so we are in the process of going virtual, which is kind of a very big undertaking. I mean, having been a past chair of the awards gala, I thought that an in-person event was logistically challenging.
Yeah.
But, virtual is kind of a whole new animal. So we're in the process of that. We're looking at a November timeframe for that.
So you're going to have it live like with WebEx or Zoom or something like that? Or are you just going to film it and show it?
We're likely going to film it and then show it, hopefully on TV.
Cool.
Yeah. But we want to have some, interactive components. So maybe doing like a live concert on Facebook Live before the actual formal program starts. So, we've been taking a look at what other organizations have been doing, and a lot of creativity is going on. So I think, these are not good times that we're going through, but what I'm encouraged by is all of the creativity that I'm seeing in terms of adapting and just finding new ways to do business. Our organization evaluated whether we should just kind of forget about 2020, but we selected individuals to receive this award, and we feel that it's very important for us to recognize these individuals in 2020.
Yeah, no, definitely. Because if not now, then when, right? And if you stop it for COVID, then what else are we going to stop it for? And this is not just for the gala or the awards, but everything, right?
Right.
Sports, the RNC and the DNC, the conventions. I mean, we're not going to go there, but they were, virtual to a big extent. So it's just different ways of doing things.
It is. So it's, really interesting for me, having chaired last year's live event and then, working to coordinate this event. They're just very, very different.
It's crazy. Like there's, you probably know, there is a game called Fortnite, and inside the game, and the game you can have like up to 100 players on one map at a time. And what they've done in the past is they've actually had concerts and live events in their servers. And so you have like 100 players inside all of these different servers, and they're just having this big live concert. And they've had like really big names come out and actually throw these concerts. And I'm like thinking to myself, okay, that's the virtual world where you make your own little player avatar kind of thing, dress how they want to dress and, whatnot. And then you're in this concert area dancing and doing these emotes and stuff like that, and you have to think, like, is that part of the future where we're going to be doing these virtual big events, concert events, where you actually log into a game or a program or system that's not necessarily Zoom or WebEx, even though they're adapting too, where you're doing all these kinds of things like theater and stuff like that. Like, how are you going to go watch a theater production anymore? How are you going to produce a theater production with all these people in person?
Right. Yeah, I think we are going to see a lot of changes, but I think that's more kind of longer term. I think, and particularly here, I think we will try to go back to an in-person event at some point, whenever that is. Just because I think, it depends on what the event is, but sometimes you can't replace, the things that you would get from having that in-person
absolutely
event. So yeah, I think definitely we're going to see more virtual events, but I think when it's safe, we're going to see more in-person type events, larger events.
Right. Go back to in-person stuff. Just not meetings, please. Just keep those virtual at home or not at all. I think that's been like one of the big things is like we've really gotten to see what meetings we actually don't need. And all these meetings that, at work and stuff that, you actually don't need to be there.
Yes, but I feel that, in my personal experience, I feel that people are much more like, hey, let's get on a Zoom call or let's just get on a Zoom meeting for really things that don't require any meeting. So
are they just trying to be social?
Possibly. I never thought of it, but possibly. I just know that my days are now filled with, a ton of Zoom meetings or Teams meetings. So it actually makes it a little bit more challenging for me to get my substantive work done because I'm on all these meetings. But
so like with the shutdown and going high tech, more meetings?
Yes.
Oh my God.
If you can imagine.
Yeah, because everybody's more easily accessible.
Exactly.
It's like, hey, if you got your phone, you can be in on a meeting. It's like,
exactly.
Man, just email me. No, we don't need to email. We want to see your face there. It's like, no, just email me.
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
No, sorry. But what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Just make the meetings more productive. I don't know. Maybe it's like when it's in-person meetings, come back. Maybe you'll go back to that. Or maybe not.
I know, it's really hard to tell right now, what's going to be, everyone keeps saying the new normal. I just think we're not there yet. Like, we don't know what that's going to look like. So it's still kind of to be determined. Mm-hmm.
New normal.
Yeah.
Just let us go to the beach already.
Yes, please let us go to the beach or go outside. Oh my gosh. But we are very excited about doing a virtual OO Awards. I think our team looks at this as an opportunity to get wider, broader exposure for not only the chamber, but in particular for this event, because, we average about 500 to maybe 600 people attending this event. Whereas if we're able to televise it, the exposure is the potential exposure is a lot greater. So, our priority is just making sure that these individuals get the proper recognition that they deserve. I think, as a Native Hawaiian, that we tend to generally downplay our achievements when they actually deserve to be celebrated and put out there. And that's really what we're trying to do with this event.
Yeah, sometimes being humble is counterintuitive, but I'm glad that you guys are putting that on. Can you tell us who was supposed to be awarded in May?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
We had selected Professor Melody McKenzie from the University of Hawaii, William S. Richardson School of Law, and B.D. Kanahele Dawson, who's also an attorney and business owner, And then retired Judge Melvin Sung, who actually was one of the founding members of our chamber. So we didn't do this on purpose, but all of our award recipients for this year are lawyers.
Damn, I'm in the wrong place. I'm in the wrong business.
That's just kind of funny. I mean, we didn't do it on purpose. Folks nominate individuals and submit a whole nomination package. And then we have a committee that reviews and, scores the applications. And then, our board votes on ultimately who will receive the award. So it just so happens that this year they're all attorneys. Last year we had quite a different cast of award recipients. We had Elliot Mills of Disney Aulani.
Oh, cool.
And then we had Naleo Pilimehana, who I'm sure you're familiar with. And then we had Dr. Angela Pratt, who is the head of the OBGYN department at Kapilani Medical Center.
Very cool. Yeah, that's a wide variety and wide range.
Yes.
It's good.
Yes. And it was particularly significant for me because chairing the event, because Dr. Pratt is a good friend of mine, and she's also my doctor, and she delivered my children 2 years ago.
So there's no bias there, right? I'm kidding.
No bias. It was just a happy, coincidence. But it was actually the largest attendance that we have had for this event in the event's history. So it was, pretty significant and pretty great event. And, we were a little disappointed kind of going from that into not having anything.
Yeah, just dropping off completely. Yeah.
Yes. So that's why, I think doing virtual will not replace the in-person event, but, it will be a nice change for us.
And it's almost foreseeable that there'll be more, because there's been a lot of virtual events going on and happening, that when they do go back to live events, that they'll also continue with the virtual events and actually expand on their audience. Hopefully, maybe.
Yes, I agree.
That's
what we're hoping for.
Yeah. Because I like watching hockey. So, they're still, NHL is still playing right now. They're in their playoffs. Yeah, I would like to see more of a virtual thing where you can kind of be more of a fan virtually in the crowd. That'd be kind of cool. Who knows? Technology.
Who knows what's going to happen?
Like, we could never do this shutdown if we didn't have the internet. We didn't have all this like Zoom and distance learning. Distance learning doesn't happen without the internet.
No.
Nope, go back to school. I don't care if you get sick. I don't know. Technology is maybe one of the downfalls of the economy. It's like, well, now that you're able to shut down and order stuff on Amazon, you don't really need to go to the store. Therefore, the store doesn't need to be open. It's like,
yeah, I don't know how this would have worked, 15, 20 years ago. It would have been completely different.
Yeah, it's like when you tell your kids that you're older than Google, they're like, what? It's like, yeah, there was no Google back then, man. But Google has everything. It doesn't mean it's old. Then you're really, I was like, come on. It's not what we're talking about here.
Cool. That's not the point.
You're missing the point. Dad, what kind of cell phone did you have in high school?
Have you ever seen these things that look like a brick?
Yeah, those army guys, the army phones? That's a miniature version of that is what we had. It's like the whole family, everybody has like one phone. Like, what? How come you couldn't walk through the house with your phone? Because it's plugged into the wall. Kids, you'll never know what it was
Never
like.
know.
Nope. I hope they never know. I hope we never go back to that kind of stuff. Technology just dies. Can you imagine dial-up internet?
That's such a nightmare. Oh my
America
gosh.
Online, that'd be great. It'd slow everything back down. Go back.
Yeah, do you know when the internet was invented? 'Cause I feel like it was right around when we started college.
Yeah, it was in the 90s, late 80s. It was coming around as a military thing or something. And then, it started to catch steam. Because I do remember being in college and not having access to the internet at all. Like, it wasn't a thing.
Like, I know we had to go, not to the internet. I mean, back then it was like email, right? Email was the big thing. but we had to go to the computer lab
Yeah.
on campus if you wanted to email.
Shannon, it's been good having you on. Thank you so much for sharing the Native Hawaiian Chamber of Commerce with us.
Yes, thank you so much. And we're so happy to have you as a new member. So thank you. And, we welcome anyone, Native Hawaiian or not, to join our chamber. So, we have a website. Please feel free to check out the website, www.nativehawaiianchamberofcommerce.com.
Nice. Everybody, Shannon Edie, President, Native Hawaiian Chamber of Commerce. And as always, stay happy, Hawaii. Start watching some football. Go Chargers.
Go Chargers.